Welcome to a new episode of Triggre Weekend Masterclass, and in this masterclass I'm going to explain you when you use a cross-user flow, how to get back to the initial user flow. If you have never used cross-user flows before, please watch one of the previous masterclasses because you can jump from one user flow to another user flow using cross-user flows. And in this case, I already have a user flow with quotations, and when I click the button Show Products, I see the products of that quotation. In this cross-user flow, I have a situation where I would like to see the quotations of a specific user, and I would like to see the products of that quotation. And because I don't want to recreate the product page again, where I show the products of their quotation, I'm going to use the cross-user flow to get to that quotation. However, when I'm looking at those products and I click on a back button, I would like to go back to the quotations of that user and not the user flow that I'm going to and show all quotations. So let me show how that works in the application first, and then I'm going to show you how that works in the designer. So here I have a list with all the quotations. When I click on Show Products, I see the products of this specific quotation. I also have the page User Quotations. I select the user, click Search, get a list of all the quotations that user has created, and then I say Show Products. And as you can see here, I'm jumping, let's put it like that, to this user flow, showing all the products. And when I click on the back button, I'm going back to user quotations again. Instead of what you might have experienced when you're using cross-user flows, when you would click on back, you would go back to the list of all quotations. That's the big difference. So not going back to the initial user flow, let's put it like that. So how does this work in the designer? When you work with cross-user flows, you've probably encountered the fact that you can add, or you need to add properties to the cross-user flow that you're linking to. So in this case, we have products of a specific quotation. So that means that we have to provide the quotation of which we would like to show the products of. And we're going to use that concept to create a button to go back to the initial user flow. So what do we have here? We have the user quotations, and as you can see here, we select the user, show the list of quotations of that specific user, and after that, when we show products, we go to the page products of that other user flow. That's why it has a different display. And if I would click it, as you can see, we're linking it to quotations and to the page products. There you go. In this case, I need to provide the selected user and the quotation. And you might ask yourself, why do you also need the user? Because technically, when you select the products of the quotation, you don't need the user. And that is absolutely correct. However, I'm currently showing quotations of a specific user. So when I go back to that user flow, I need to know which user I was looking at, because else I cannot filter the page in a correct way. However, this property is not being used in the user flow we're linking to. So we need to define that. And to do that, we use a flow part. Because what Triggre does is it looks at this page and it checks what are the properties that we need to use. Or, what properties can you define before getting to this page? And in this case, we start at start, and then we go to created quotations, and normally you would go to show products, and then you would see the products page. What did I do? I created an additional button which is inactive in any way. In every situation it's inactive, so nobody will see this. And I've linked it to the flow part cross user flow quotations. And the reason why I'm doing that is because this specific flow part uses the user as an input, as you can see here. So when I use the cross user flow to get to this page, Triggre will say like, hey, we need the quotation because it's being used on this page, but we also need to use the user. So when we're using a cross user flow, you have to provide the quotation and the user. And the only reason why we're using the user is to be able to create a back button. So as you can see, we have two of them. One over here, back, and one over here, back to user quotations. And we can create a validation to show these buttons. So back to user quotations is only shown when the user has been provided. As you can see here, the cross user flow quotations, selected user is not empty. And this button, back, is only available when that input isn't available. So selected user of cross user flow quotations is empty. When we use a cross user flow, we provide that user. Triggre, let's say, thinks that you provided the property of this flow part. So that's why this flow part is only used when you use a cross user flow and not when you use the other way where you say, okay, I'm going from created quotations instantly to products. You might wonder, what is in this flow part then? I will show you, because it is important that you create them in a specific way. We have the cross user flow quotations here. And it's important that it has an input, which in this case is the selected user, and an output, which is also the selected user. And since a flow part has to have an input, a calculation, and an output, we put a calculation in between, but technically it doesn't do anything. So by adding a flow part to your user flow, you can create a back button back to the initial user flow after using a cross user flow. You know what to do. Hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and next time you'll be notified of a new video.